Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk, of course, tonight. It is nighttime right now where I am. I wanted to just talk about something that occurred to me upon hearing about the death of Queen Elizabeth II, which, wow, was that ever like uh, a long time in the making? I don't mean to sound callous or anything. But I thought she was just going to keep on going and going and going. Um, uh, but it looks like Bonnie Prince Charlie is finally gonna get to assume the reins of the monarchy, and it'll be interesting. I'm not a monarchy enthusiast, or in particular of the monarchy of the UK. Or a monarchy enthusiast in general. But it will be interesting to see what happens now, because Charles is not a very popular figure. He's rather loathed, from what I gather, by a lot of people, and this man is now going to become the king. I guess he is technically already the king of England, but he'll be coronated sometime in the next few days and become the official king. But I think he already has that title. I think that's how it works. But this guy is not well liked. People are still angry with him for how he supposedly treated Diana, who was a people's favorite. So what happens when the king is the king of a country is despised by a large majority of the country? Do they just rally behind him now because it's the monarchy, and you gotta get behind him? I mean, I know that there are people with different points of view all across the UK, from the very pro-monarchy people to the very anti-monarchy people. But it just seemed like with Elizabeth, for better or for worse, and I'm going to talk about something in a second, which brings up some of the more some of the darker lore concerning Elizabeth. But for better or for worse, as far as what kind of a person she actually was, it seems that Queen Elizabeth was respected and looked up to and seen as sort of the mother of England and so forth, which to me, I can't quite relate to any of that. I mean, I can understand, how it works, within the Catholicism, with Mary being the mother of us all, but I just have a harder time, when you've got this tangible, this family, and we're supposed to think that they, are our parents somehow, and she's our mother, and she cares about the country, generally speaking. I say we and our, although of course I'm not from the UK. Here's what occurred to me, though, and this is really the meat of this video. 4 minutes in, finally I get to it. It just occurred to me the other day, or just today, actually. The line in the Sex Pistols song "God Save the Queen," which I talked about, interestingly, just a few days ago when I was asked about my musical taste. I talked about when I got into the Sex Pistols, which was well past the age that they were actually existent. It was like when I was in my 30s, or in my late 20s, pushing 30. Back in the late 90s, I finally got into the Sex Pistols and saw how great they were. And the defiance that they flung, in the face of those who would want to control what they could say, what they could think, what they were allowed to, the ideas they were allowed to express, etc., and so forth. But the song "God Save the Queen," which of course was an extremely controversial song in the UK, got banned on the BBC radio, I believe, and it reached number one on the charts. But when it reached number one, they didn't list it. They didn't list the song title. Uh, so so it was like number one, blank space. Nobody, not God Save the Queen, Sex Pistols, but blank space. Number two, whatever. I mean, that's pretty wild. That's pretty crazy. But so uh, I always thought the line, God Save the Queen, she ain't no human being. I just sort of thought that's just sort of a throwaway line. Um, no particular significance to it. But I started to wonder about it a bit more. Just considering again the darker lore concerning monarchs, generally speaking, and the notion that the those with the bloodlines that are supposed to be fit to rule the world, that they might be something other than human. I'm not saying I believe this myself, uh, but I'm open to possibilities. Um, there was a movie that was semi interesting that I saw a couple weeks ago called The Invitation, which is about an American woman who finds that she has some distant family relation to some high placed aristocratic family in England, and she flies over to watch this wedding take place, only to discover that she's the one that they're grooming to be the new bride. Uh, and sorry to give this away. Sorry to give away the twist to anybody. Uh, but uh, but in this movie, the members of these families are not human. Now, what they are is something like, I don't know, maybe vampires or some kind of uh, you know ghastly uh, um, preternatural creatures, who pursue immortality by consuming the blood of mere humans. Um, and so it's a semi interesting movie, just for sort of dabbling in those kinds of ideas. It's not great, not a great movie, but interesting. Um, and of course, with Queen Elizabeth, there have been things, and I'm not, again, I want to talk about this stuff and say that it's interesting and that it's worth considering, just because who the hell knows what's real? What's real and what isn't? Who knows what's actually going on in the realms of those who are among the ruling classes? But there is lore. There are stories of the Queen shape shifting that I've heard about. There's lore that would suggest that, again, those of these royal bloodlines, or these highly placed bloodlines, that they don't see themselves as being the same as us common folk, and it's not just a question of uh, being being exalted through one's family line. It is that, but it's maybe there's something more to it. Maybe in some way they really are of a different species. Whether whether we're just talking in their mentality, or or maybe we're talking about something actually physiological. I just thought it's just really that line, God save the Queen, she ain't no human being. Um, uh, and there's no future in England's dreaming. Um, the line about her not being a human being is it assumes this whole new dimension of meaning for me when I was thinking about it today. And take it however you see fit. If you think that this is just nonsense, then whatever. It doesn't have to be your area of interest. But I would suggest not just being dismissive of these kinds of things, because when you are dismissive, you don't really know what you are, the kind of ideas or notions that you are turning your nose up at. You're just saying, bah, that's crazy, that's stupid. People who believe this are nuts, and blah blah blah. I've never, for me, dismissiveness has always been one of my pet peeves. Even among people who I generally tend to agree with on things, when I see them just dismissing something out of hand, I think that that's not wise, and I think that is not a symptom of being possessed of a wise heart. Um, so you know, and it's not like Johnny Rotten didn't call some things. Back in 1978, need I remind you, in an interview that he gave to the BBC, I believe it was, Johnny Rotten said that Jimmy Savile was an extremely sleazy man who was involved in all kinds of terrible things, but that we're not allowed to talk about that. And he said, I know this part of the interview won't get broadcast. And he was right. It was not broadcast. That was back in 78. I mean, gosh, which shows how long, people in the know had been buzzing about this strange character, Jimmy Savile, who was just supposed to be this harmless, eccentric, who was just into being charitable and was really a great guy, but back in '78, Rotten himself, John Lydon himself, called it on Jimmy Savile, and this same man, around the same time, I guess a little earlier, whenever he wrote "God Save the Queen," I guess that was '77, maybe '76. Chose to include that line, God save the Queen, she ain't no human being. I mean, there's so many things you could say in a diss track, so to speak. What's today called a diss track, where you're putting somebody down. But to choose to go that route and say she's not human, I mean, that's, again, a pretty interesting tack, rhetorically speaking. Um, Especially, again, he was in the know about Jimmy Savile. This guy knew stuff. This guy was perceptive. He was definitely a prickly son of a bitch. No question about it. But he called it on Jimmy Savile. So maybe he called it on Elizabeth too. Uh, who knows? Well, rest in peace, Queen Lizard. And now we got Charles the Lizard King coming up. We'll see what happens with that. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts below if you care to leave them.